Hollywood, in shock, Ben Affleck. Forcibly removed from Jimmy Kimmel Live. Studio after stunning confrontation. And it wasn't a joke. What was supposed to be another lighthearted late-night TV evening instantly turned into a hotspot of Hollywood drama. Ben Affleck, actor, director, and a symbol of old-school Hollywood, became the protagonist not of a film, but of a live broadcast that ended almost like a scandalous political speech. It all started with a routine visit to Jimmy Kimmel Live, but it ended with the world seeing a side of Jimmy Kimmel that the public may have long suspected but never witnessed so openly. Show insiders confirm, the tension was palpable even before going on air. Ben was professional as always. He greeted everyone, cracked jokes in the dressing room, thanked the lighting crew for their patience, acted with respect, like an old-school actor who knows that movies aren't made just by stars, but by those behind the lens, a member of the crew shared. But everything changed the moment Jimmy Kimmel appeared on set. According to sources, the host was in a bad mood and didn't even shake Affleck's hand before the show. He was irritated that the show had to be rearranged for Ben and openly showed his displeasure backstage. While the audience suspected nothing, the studio atmosphere was already primed for an explosion. And explode it did. "Thanks for coming, Ben," Jimmy said, initially friendly, then winking at the audience. "You're truly a hero of our time. You survived Giggly, Marriage to Jennifer, and even Justice League. That takes some serious guts." Laughter filled the room. The camera caught Affleck's reaction, a faint smile, but his eyes betrayed a line of tension. "Well, I try to keep it together," he replied calmly. "And that post on X, formerly Twitter today, was that serious? Do you really think studios owe anything to industry veterans, even if they're no longer pulling in big box office numbers?" A ripple of tension swept through the studio. The question landed like a blade, delivered with a smile, but laced with venom. Ben paused for a moment. His eyes slowly locked onto the host. "I think we're all responsible for the world we leave behind, and that talent doesn't have an expiration date. Also, that profit doesn't always equal dignity." A few seconds of silence. Jimmy, not expecting such a response, tried to keep things light. "But movies are a business, Ben. It's not a rehab center." "Are you talking about older actors, Jimmy?" Ben asked evenly. "Because it sure sounded like that." The room froze. The director nervously gripped his headset. A producer nearby jumped out of their seat. "I'm just saying," Jimmy began, "the world's changing. Audiences want young, fresh—" "The world's changing," Ben interrupted, "but not always for the better. Every day we see studios replace experienced professionals with influencers who can't even act disappointed in a coffee line. And you know what, Jimmy? That's not progress. It's cheapness wrapped in shiny packaging." Silence fell. Then, from the back of the room, someone clapped. One person, then two more. Not fans. Older folks. The ones who came not for memes, but for truth. Jimmy faltered for a moment. "But you're a star, Ben. You've got everything. What more do you want?" And then Ben leaned forward, hands on his knees, his voice carrying something new. Fatigue, but not weakness. "I'm the face of a generation that built this industry, Jimmy, and now they're trying to erase us. Not because we did anything wrong, but because we remind them. The world isn't just about trends. It's about responsibility." The monitor flashed commercial, and the broadcast cut off a few minutes early. But if you think this was just a live spat, wait until you hear what happened after the cameras went off. "Well, Ben," Jimmy said with a mock surprise smile, "tell me honestly, is this all your attempt to get back in the game? Because it looks like you're just hurt that younger guys are getting roles you're no longer called for. Is this just a midlife crisis with a dash of vanity?" The audience gasped. This wasn't an interview anymore. It was an attack. The cameras caught Affleck freeze. He didn't blink. His hands slowly clasped together, elbows on his knees. For a moment, it seemed he might stay silent, swallow another insult. But then he slowly turned his head to Jimmy. His voice was low, each word like a blade. "Listen, Jimmy." The cameras zoomed in. Dead silence in the room. "You might think you're cool doing this, throwing a joke that hides contempt, humiliating someone because you know the audience will laugh, even if you're just a cheap manipulator with a microphone. Jimmy tried to interject, but Ben raised a finger, a single calm gesture. He continued, "But I'll tell you something, not as a star, as a person, as a man who's been through shoots, divorce, rehab, criticism, loss. I'll tell you honestly. You're acting like a jackass, Jimmy." The room froze for the first few seconds. Cameras silently tracked faces. Someone's jaw dropped. Others reached for their phones. But Affleck didn't stop. And you know why? His voice remained calm, like the quiet before a storm. "Because this isn't the first time. Every time I come here, you try to jab, bring up Gilly, drag out the alcohol topic, mock my age, my career, everything I've been through. And every time, it's under the guise of a joke. But it's not humor. It's passive aggression in prime time." Jimmy tried to laugh, but it came out nervous, like a hiccup after something bitter. Okay, buddy. You know it's a show. That's the format. Jokes, irony, all that." "It's not irony," Ben cut in. "It's bullying, and it's not funny anymore. You say I'm old? Maybe. But I still remember a time when men didn't hide behind teleprompters and stood by their words." "Listen, Ben." Jimmy leaned closer, suddenly hardening. "You're accusing me of something, but you came here. You know how TV works. It's a show, not therapy. We all play roles. If you don't like being the old hero, change the script." "Oh, I'm changing it, just not by your rules," Ben said, no longer hiding his anger. "You and people like you sit in your chairs thinking you have the right to set the agenda. You shoot new generation stuff and toss out those who built the industry like garbage after a rap." "Sorry, but the audience dictates," Jimmy shot back. "People want young, fast, fresh. People want truth." Affleck's voice cracked like a gunshot. "And I just gave it to you." The studio fell silent again, tense like the calm before an earthquake. A few audience members stood. Someone clapped, timidly, as if afraid. "Ben, if you came here to make a scene," Jimmy started, but didn't finish. "I came thinking we'd talk about movies, about creativity. Not about your ego and your need to carve another minute of content out of me. I came as an actor. You tried to make me a punchline. Well, you're not getting that anymore." Now there was more than irritation in Ben's voice. There was something deeper, years of pent-up resentment and a resolve to no longer stay silent. "You think I'm scared? I've been canceled more times than you've been quoted. I've been dragged through the mud before you learned how to tie a tie. But I'm still here, and I'm not leaving, because someone has to say it." "Then say it," Jimmy threw out coldly. "But be ready to star only in indie films shot on a phone after this." "If that's the price of truth, I'm ready." The interview didn't end there. And just when everyone thought the show had completely spiraled out of control, words were spoken that couldn't be taken back. "And you know what else?" Ben scanned the studio. "You all think Jimmy's this great guy, the relatable guy. Funny, kind, witty. But what if I told you it's a mask?" "Ben, I wouldn't go there if I were you." Jimmy started, paling slightly, but Affleck didn't let him speak. "Shut up," he said almost in a whisper. "I'm not done." He turned to the audience. The cameras went wide, and the studio held its breath. "Half an hour ago, before we went on air, I was in the dressing room, waiting, and I heard something behind the wall, a voice yelling, harsh, unpleasant. And you know what I saw when I looked out?" A pause. The camera zoomed in on Ben's face. No anger, just disappointment. Jimmy Kimmel was berating a staff member, a young guy, a lighting assistant. He'd messed up something with the spotlight, and you, Jimmy, Affleck turned sharply to the host, were screaming at him like he was trash, called him an idiot with no future, a loser who can't even screw in a light bulb. The audience stirred. Jimmy tried to keep his composure. "That's a lie. I saw it, with my own eyes. And I heard you say, 'If you screw up like that again, you're out on the street.'" The kid just shrank, stood there, head down, whispering apologies. He's maybe 20, works nights to pay for school, and you decided to make him a scapegoat in front of the crew. "You don't know the whole story," Jimmy snapped. "You heard a piece. I was stressed. It's live TV, and..." I don't care what kind of TV it is, Ben exploded. We're all stressed. But that doesn't give you the right to break people, to humiliate those lower on the ladder. This isn't, damn it, Saturday Night Ego. This is life. These are people. Jimmy stood. His eyes glinted, not with emotion, but with anger. So what do you want now, Ben? Your hero moment. You starred in Pearl Harbor and now you're shooting backstage truth? You think I'm the only one? All of television is built on pressure, deadlines, responsibility. Want to tear down the system? Go ahead, but not on my watch. That system needs to be torn down, Ben replied quietly. Because as long as we stay silent, kids like that lighting tech get crushed and discarded, and we sit in our comfy chairs and laugh. Complete silence in the studio. Some were crying, some were filming, but everyone shared an understanding. A facade was crumbling. If you cancel me after this, do it. But for once, I said what I had to say, and I'm done playing this game. He sat back. For the first time, not as a guest, as a person. The interview continued. But it wasn't entertainment anymore. It was truth, and it went out on air. But what if this wasn't just an improvised scene? What if there's something bigger behind it than just a show? We haven't seen the final act yet. Ben Affleck slowly rose. The cameras followed his every move as if tracking a figure exiting the stage after the final act. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with a quiet fire, the kind that drives someone to say everything, even knowing it might cost them their career. Thank you, he said, turning to the audience, where hundreds of eyes hung on his every breath. Thank you, viewers, for listening, for being here. And no thanks to you, Jimmy. He turned to the host with an expression of complete, almost theatrical calm. For the invitation. I'm done with this crap. And without looking back, Affleck walked off to the wings. The silence in the studio wasn't just silence anymore. It felt like a moment of mourning after a great loss. Or a great revelation. Jimmy stood behind his desk, for the first time in his life at a loss for words. He glanced at Affleck's empty chair, then at the cameras. He started, clearing his throat. Dear viewers, I want to apologize for the fact that you witnessed a somewhat unusual format for our show. And if anything was said that offended any staff members, he sighed. I admit, sometimes the pressure makes us act in ways we shouldn't. I'm learning. Like everyone. The applause was tepid, but it was there. That was an evening with Ben Affleck, and it'll definitely be remembered for a long time. Good night. Take care. The studio lights dimmed. The broadcast cut off. A bitter but honest aftertaste lingered. 15 minutes later. Backstage. An old dressing room. Cold fluorescent light and the echo of the recent storm. Ben sat, unbuttoning his shirt collar. Jimmy appeared in the doorway, holding a water bottle and a slightly guilty expression. Good performance, huh? He said, barely smiling. Ben didn't answer right away. Then he slowly looked up. It's going viral, Jimmy added, tossing the bottle onto the table. Already blowing up. Producers are in shock. Twitter's on fire. But damn it, it worked. Ben nodded. The main thing, he said quietly, is that everyone understands it was a joke. And at the same time, not quite. People believe in shows more than news, Jimmy replied, sitting across from him. Sometimes to change something, you have to show them the truth as a performance. Then they'll at least pay attention. They sat in silence for a few more seconds. Do you think the lighting kid got that we were acting? Ben asked, clenching his fingers. We'll tell him first, Jimmy replied. In person. Good, Ben said, standing. Because the line between a joke and the truth is thin. And tonight, we danced on it a bit. He extended his hand. Jimmy took it. They shook. And both walked out into the soft light of the night studio, still smelling of makeup, camera dust, and old Hollywood, which, every now and then, could still say something real. Thank you for staying with us until the final seconds. In a world where truth and performance are increasingly confused, there are still those who can feel what's real. If you've read this far, you're one of them. One of those who sees deeper, listens closer, and asks questions when others stay silent.